Hi guys, this is CA Balakrishna from Lecturepedia.in. Now in this class, we will be revising SA 620 last standard of 600 series using the work of Auditors Expert. Now first of all, who is this Auditors Expert? Basically, Auditors Expert means a person or an organization who is expert in the fields other than audit and accounts, because in the areas of audit and accounting, auditor himself is a expert. Thereby in those areas, auditor need not need another expert. Okay, thereby auditors expert means a person who is a expert in areas other than audit and accounts. Hope this is clear. Now first of all, we will see who is audit expert. An individual or organization having expertise in field other than accounting and auditing, whose work is used by the auditor. Hope this is clear. Now before auditor, in which areas auditor can use the work of auditors expert? There are certain areas in which auditor can use work of auditors expert. Let us see what are those areas. Okay, these are examples of areas in which auditor can use auditors expert work. This is a very important question. Let us see. Matters where auditor can use experts work: actuarial calculations, estimation of oil and gas reserves, valuation of environmental liabilities, interpretation of various contracts, analysis of complex or unusual tax compliance issues, valuation of complex financial instruments, land and building, plant and machinery, and etc. Okay, you can also find this question in the question bank, which is very important. You can just remember these areas in which auditor will use auditors expert work. Now before auditor decides whether to use auditors expert or not, auditor will consider certain factors. Okay, based on these factors, auditor will come to a conclusion whether to use auditors expert work or not. What are those factors? Let us see. Considerations when deciding whether to use work of auditors expert. First of all, risk of material misstatement in that matter. Okay, the area in which auditor wants to use the work of auditors expert, whether in such area there is a high risk of material misstatement. Okay, that will be considered by the auditor before deciding whether to use the work of auditors expert or not. Hope this is clear. Next, nature of procedures to respond to the risk. Okay, what are the type of procedures that have to be performed in order to respond to the risk? See, if a risk of material misstatement in a particular area is determined as high, okay, and in that area auditor is not having expertise. Okay, now since the risk of material misstatement is very high and in that area auditor is not having expertise, it is mandatory that auditor has to use the work of an auditor's expert. Hope this is clear. Since the risk of material misstatement in that area is very high, and what are the types of procedures that have to be performed in relation to that assessed risk of material misstatements? If the procedures that have to be performed are complex in nature, okay, in that case auditor will use auditor's expert, because auditor is not having expertise in that area and the procedures that have to be performed in order to obtain audit evidence are very complex in nature. Okay, and auditor is not having any idea relating to that procedures, then he will employ auditor's expert. Hope this is clear. Next, whether management has used management experts work. Okay, auditor will also determine whether management has used management experts work in respect of that area while preparing financial statements. Okay, basically we have decided, we have seen this management's expert, we have discussed this in SA 500 audit evidence. Okay, there we have discussed if management uses work of management's expert, then what are the audit procedures that the auditor will perform? Now here, since the management has used the work of management's expert, that means in that area even management is not having expertise, thereby management has used management's expert. Now considering this, auditor will decide whether to use auditor's expert to verify this area or not. Hope this is clear. Nature, significance and complexity of the matter. Okay, auditor will also consider this point before deciding whether to use the work of auditor's expert or not. Hope this is clear. Now there are certain specific considerations that the auditor will consider if the management has used management expert's work. See here, in this case, factors influencing auditor's decision. When management used management's expert work, if auditor finds that management has used management's expert, then apart from these factors, auditor will also consider following factors in deciding whether to use auditor's expert or not. What are they? Nature, scope and objectives of management expert's work. Okay, whether management expert is employed by the entity or is a external party. Okay, whether the management expert works within the entity or he is some external party who has been appointed by the management only for performing this work. Okay, and what are his competence and capabilities. Okay, competence and capabilities of management experts work, extent to which management can exercise control or influence over experts work, and any controls within the entity over management's expert work. These are the additional factors that the auditor will consider in determining whether to use the work of auditor's expert or not. Hope this is clear. Next, agreement with auditor's expert. Now after considering all the above factors, auditor has come to a conclusion that yes, in respect of this area I have to use auditor's expert work. Now auditor will enter into an agreement with the auditor's expert. What should be included in this agreement? First of all, nature, scope and objective of the auditor's expert work. Okay, this will be included in the agreement between auditor and auditor's expert. Respective role and responsibility of auditor and auditor's expert. Okay, what is the division of roles and responsibilities of auditor and auditor's expert will be clearly mentioned in that agreement. Nature, timing, extent of communication including form of the report of auditor's expert. Okay, confidentiality to be observed by the expert. Okay, since expert will be having access to some confidential information of the auditor, expert need to maintain confidentiality. Hope this is clear. Evaluating the adequacy of expert's work. Okay, auditor's expert work. Auditor has entered into an agreement and the auditor's expert has performed his work and found some conclusions. Now while evaluating the work of auditor's expert, what will be considered by the auditor? Let us see. In respect of findings and conclusions that the auditor's expert has made, auditor will consider whether those findings and conclusions are relevant for the purpose of auditor, and whether those findings and conclusions are reasonable, and whether they are consistent with other audit evidence. Okay, now assumptions and methods that the auditor's expert has used. See, for performing the work, auditor's expert might have used some assumptions and might have followed some methods. Now auditor will determine whether those assumptions and methods are relevant for the purpose of audit and reasonable. Okay, source data, whether source data is reliable, complete and accuracy. These will be evaluated by the auditor. Okay, next, after using the work of auditor's expert, auditor will obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence regarding that area. Finally, auditor will give audit report. Now, while reporting, whether auditor can refer the work performed by the auditor's expert or not. Let us see. Reference to auditor's expert in the audit report. Basically, if the auditor wants to give unmodified opinion, in that case, no reference can be made to the auditor's expert in the audit report. Hope this is clear. No reference is required. Okay. Since the auditor is giving unmodified opinion, there is no requirement of referring to the work performed by the auditor's expert in the audit report of the auditor. Hope this is clear. Now, what will be the case if a auditor is giving modified opinion? Let us see. Modified opinion. It may be appropriate to refer to auditor's expert in order to explain the nature of modification. Okay, now if the auditor is modifying the opinion based on the work performed by the auditor's expert, okay, based on the conclusions that have been reached by the auditor's expert, auditor is giving a modified opinion. Now in this situation, it is necessary to refer to the work performed by the auditor's expert, because based on the conclusions that have been reached based on the work performed on the auditor's expert only, auditor is giving modified opinion. Thereby it is very much necessary to describe why the auditor is giving a modified opinion. In this situation, auditor will refer to the work that has been performed by the auditor's expert. Hope this is clear. In such case, take permission of auditor's expert. Okay, while you are referring to the auditor's expert in the audit report, you please once take permission of the auditor's expert. Hope this is clear. And another important point to be remembered is that in both the cases, the responsibility of the auditor in respect of opinion that is expressed in the audit report will not be auditor is solely responsible. Okay, for the opinion that the auditor has given in the audit report, auditor is solely responsible. Okay, he cannot divert the responsibility to the auditor's expert. Hope this is clear. See, note, in both the cases, auditor's responsibility with regard to the opinion will not be reduced. Hope this is clear. By this, revision of SS 620 has been completed. Okay, and if you want to purchase classes, you can visit our website lecturepedia.in and you can place the order. And in the next class, we'll be starting with 700 series. Okay, bye bye, take care.